going on, ladies? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down for you what is changing in your body that is making your stress sensitivity go up, your stress tolerance go down. When you understand these things, it will make sense for you why it's harder for you to recover from physical activity, why you feel a higher sense of anxiety on a day-to-day basis, why you are experiencing more fatigue as well, and in essence, what's making it more challenging for you to actually lose weight and drop body fat. And the things that I'm going to be covering in this video to help you to understand that, number one is the HPA axis. 2, what the HPA axis looks like under normal circumstances. 3, what the HPA axis looks like under menopausal circumstances. And 4, what you can actually do about it. So the first thing we're going to dive into is understanding what the HPA axis is. And this is literally the communication line between your brain and your stress hormones. So the parts of the HPA axis are going to be your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, as well as your adrenal glands. And the way that I have structured this training is using the analogy of a business and how a business is run, because most of you professional women is something that you can actually connect with, right? So your hypothalamus is the part of your brain that detects stress, whether it's physical, emotional, environmental. It makes the big decisions because it's what's perceiving the stress. It's literally inside of your brain. Okay, so it lets you know, okay, are we safe? Is there something that we need to respond to? And then it will signal to your pituitary gland what it needs to do. Okay, the pituitary gland will then decide which hormones need to be released, and it will send instructions to your adrenal glands, right? So the hypothalamus is considered the CEO of the company. Okay, it's making the big decisions. The pituitary glands can be considered the managers of the company. They receive the shots from the CEO, and then they send the instructions. They organize everything that needs to get done, and they send the instructions over to the workers or the producers, which are the adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands are responsible for actually producing the hormones. Now, the main stress hormone that gets released is going to be cortisol, and that's all we're going to focus on inside of this video. Right? So let's say that there's a stressful situation, and this is what it looks like under normal circumstances. It's a beautiful design, right? Your brain perceives the stress, boom, hypothalamus communicates with the pituitary gland, boom, pituitary gland communicates to adrenals, boom, adrenals start to produce cortisol. Okay? Now, cortisol is being produced, and cortisol is your liver's best friend, right? Anything that happens inside of the company, cortisol starts to communicate with the liver. Right? And the role of cortisol is to mobilize energy. Okay? It's meant to get glucose into your blood so it can raise alertness and prepare your body to do whatever it needs to do. Again, this is a beautiful design. If there was a tiger chasing you, you would want this system to be working properly because it would give you the energy to run away from the tiger. Right? Whether you have an actual chance or not against a tiger is a different story, but you will at least be able to have the energy available to try to do something about it. You can thank the HPA axis and thank cortisol for that, right? So cortisol will communicate to your liver, and your liver is what's considered a sugar bank or a glucose bank inside of the company. That's where all the currency is stored. That's where all the glycogen is stored. So once the liver gets the call from cortisol, hey, we need to release some of the sugar into the bloodstream, that's where the liver will release the sugar, right? Now, once the liver releases the sugar into your bloodstream, insulin, which is considered the security guard of the company, right? It needs to dictate, okay, well, who gets in versus who don't get in and who's going where. I need to manage what's happening. There's sugar in the bloodstream right now. I need to dictate who goes where. And the two places that insulin will prioritize is going to be your muscle, and then after muscle is going to be fat. So it will send the energy to your muscle first, after your muscles use up the amount of energy that it needs to, which is why it's beneficial to have more muscle mass, right? After your muscle uses up the energy that it needs to, the rest of it will get stored as fat. This is what things look like under normal circumstances. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is the owners of the company, right, who are sitting in the background. Most owners of a company, you don't know who they are until like something goes down. Right? They're behind the scenes. They communicate with the CEO. The CEO is the one who's communicating with everybody else, right? The producers of the workers may only know their manager, or they might hear the CEO, but the owners are typically ghosts, right? That's usually how it goes. Now, the owners in this scenario inside of a woman's body is going to be estrogen and progesterone. And what estrogen and progesterone are responsible for are insulin sensitivity, cortisol management, fat storage, muscle protein synthesis, as well as influencing the HPA axis, right? So the owners of the company during the normal phases of your life, when you are not going through the menopause transition, they're handling everything that needs to get done. Everything is under control. The CEO isn't under any unnecessary stress, and everything is working in the way that it should. Now, what ends up happening when you start going through the menopause transition and you are experiencing fluctuations with estrogen and progesterone is that it will impact this entire system that I just broke down. So a good way for you to think about this is as if the owners are deciding to sell the company. Okay? If an owner decides to sell the company, a lot of people are under stress, especially the CEO. Right? A lot of things are going to rub the CEO the wrong way. They're going to be worried about whether they're going to lose their job or what's the new owner going to come and implement. And if their position is safe, now they have to worry about managing everybody else. That's typically what ends up happening, right? So now we can go over all of this again. The CEO, the hypothalamus, which has to make the big decisions, has more decisions to make under more stress. It starts to overreact. It becomes a little bit more sensitive, right? So it's going to be communicating more times to the managers. All right, they're going to be on to the managers. All right, there's stress here, there's stress there, there's stress here. Boom, 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 boom. Right, things that maybe weren't a big deal in the past when the company was stable and it wasn't going to be sold. Things that were not an issue in the past are becoming an issue for the CEO now. Right, so in the context of what a lot of women are experiencing, things that didn't used to cause you anxiety in the past is causing you more anxiety now. Managing work and the kids and your parents and dealing with all these different things, staying on top of your health. All of a sudden, it feels like you're carrying a harder load. Before, you used to just be able to power through things. Now it's like, man, like this is actually starting to feel like a lot. I really can't handle all of this, right? Because you're perceiving more situations as more stressful than they used to be in the past. Somebody showing up late or an emergency at school with your kids. In the past, you might just handle it quickly and move on with your day, right? Again, under normal circumstances. But now, if something like that comes up, you start to feel a little bit more anxious. You start to feel a little bit more anxiety because your body's becoming more sensitive to stress, right? The company is being sold, right? So the CEO, the hypothalamus in your brain, is starting to get onto your managers a little bit more. Hey, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. Okay. Now the managers are receiving so much more demands, so much more information from the CEO that they start to tell the adrenals, we need more hormones produced. We need more hormones produced. Okay. Now the adrenals, which are responsible for producing the hormones, start to produce more and more cortisol. So cortisol starts to get released more often, more frequently, which means your baseline levels are going to be a little bit higher. Now, when there's so much cortisol being produced, there's more and more communication being sent to your liver to release more and more sugar into your bloodstream. So if the liver is now releasing more and more sugar into your bloodstream, that places more strain on insulin. Insulin has more work to do. So the security guard of the company is like, yo, I'm used to dealing with this amount of sugar. Now there's like so much more coming in here. It's like a frenzy. Okay. Some of it gets prioritized to muscle, right? But remember that estrogen and progesterone are responsible for how well your body can retain muscle as you're going through this phase. So if you start losing muscle mass because you're not doing the right things to help you maintain muscle, you have less room for that sugar to go to. So what ends up happening? A lot of it gets stored as fat. This is why a lot of women start to experience an increase in midsection fat while going through the menopause transitions because of that increased stress sensitivity and producing more cortisol. Or some of it starts to roam around in your bloodstream, which is why a lot of women experience higher levels of blood sugar while going through the menopause transition as well. Okay, this is exactly what is going on. And the crazy part about this with estrogen and progesterone selling this company is that the buying process for there to be a new owner, which will be post-menopause, in order for there to be a new owner to come and take over the company, it's a 7 to 10 year period, AKA perimenopause. Can last anywhere from 7 to 10 years on average. And a lot of women start to experience this and don't even know that they're in it because there is no official test to confirm whether you are in perimenopause or not. You just have to pay attention to the symptoms. Most women don't even know what the symptoms are. They're strictly looking out for hot flushes, but they don't realize that increased anxiety, increased time for recovery, increased stress sensitivity, trouble sleeping, intense cravings, loss of muscle mass, all of these different things are signs that you may be going through the menopause transition, right? Now, what does all of this have to do with the fat loss process? If your body's becoming more sensitive to stress, and like I mentioned earlier, this is physical stress, emotional stress, environmental stress, you need to take this into consideration when you are putting together a training and a nutrition protocol, right? And I have an entire video breaking down all of the things that cause women to gain weight as a result of this. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it somewhere around here. You can take a look at it, right? But if you are becoming more sensitive to stress and you're going long periods of time without eating food, you're fasting, you're not getting enough protein, your blood sugar levels are imbalanced, right? You're overtraining, and it becomes so much easier to overtrain if you understand this because your body's perceiving more stress. It becomes so much easier for you to overtrain. It becomes harder and harder for you to lose fat if you don't make the necessary adjustments to your approach to physical activity as well as your approach to what's going on with nutrition, right? So I would take a look at that video if you can. I will also take a look at the video where I break down the triangle of hormonal health and everything that you can do that's within your power to get some of this under control to start seeing results, right? And if you want to take it to the next level, there's two ways that you can work with us. You can either join our community, the Fit Queen Academy. It's a very low investment, costs you less than a cup of coffee per day to join, where you can get some structure, you can get a personalized pathway to start taking action. That's for self-starters, right? I'll leave the link in the description below. Or you can book in a time to speak directly to me or somebody from my team to inquire more about the Fit Queen Collective, where we're doing one-to-one coaching and walking women through the changes that they need to specifically make for their lifestyle and holding them accountable around it. Okay, those are the two ways that you can work with us if you want to take things to the next level. But you do need to understand how all of these pieces come together to create an approach where you are managing the overall stress that you have in your body. Again, physical, emotional, and environmental stress. You need to manage that. And there are a lot of things that go into that, even from a nutrition standpoint. So ladies, if you have been feeling a bit more tired, doing the same workouts that you used to do in your 20s and 30s, you're finding it harder to see results in your 40s and your 50s. You're seeing an increase in midsection fat, increased cravings, you have more fatigue, you're more irritable, you have more anxiety. This is the reason why. This is literally the reason why. The company is going through a transition. Estrogen and progesterone are deciding to sell the company. And because of that, the HPA axis is freaking out. The hypothalamus in your brain is freaking out. It's perceiving more stress than it normally would, and it's putting strain on the rest of the team. So your baseline levels of cortisol are going to go up if things are mismanaged. But if you learn what's changing, you can make adjustments to what you do on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis inside of your life to keep this system under control. Once the company gets sold, things start to regulate a little bit better, or things become a bit easier to regulate because your hormones are flatlined at that point. You're not experiencing all of these fluctuations. But in the meantime, if it's a 7 to 10 year period that you're going to be going through this transition, you need to empower yourself to know what changes you can make so you can feel the way that you want to feel again and raise your capacity to be able to do the things that life is inevitably going to demand from you. So I hope this video was helpful, ladies. I hope that this clears some things up for you in regards to stress sensitivity. I know that I reference it a lot in a lot of my other content. Now you'll be able to connect the dots and not be left in the dark with what's changing inside of your body. Found this video helpful? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or there's anything else that I can clear up for you, and I'll see you in the next one.